Well, hello everyone and welcome to another one of our ground level resource videos. I'm delighted to be joined by Mari from Alpha UK.
Hi everybody.
Hello Mari. And we're going to be sharing a little bit about how to run a great Alpha course. So Mari, you've got some hints and tips and practical steps for us. So why don't you start by telling us what makes a great Alpha course?
Amazing. Well, I think if you were to boil it down to three things, so three key ingredients of a great Alpha is food, talk and discussion. And food doesn't always have to be like this massive catered 3-course meal that costs you so much money, but I know one church that did something really fun with a popcorn machine. They bought it or they rented it, I couldn't remember, but it wasn't expensive, and every single week their guests would come up with their buckets, their personalized buckets, and they'd get their flavored popcorn to sit and to watch the talk with each other. And I just thought that was really innovative. You know, that's still gathering around food. That's still a little bit of a focal point, and that was quite fun. So food, talk, the talks, the Alpha talks, they're brilliant, they're amazing, and they're done for you. So you don't have to deliver them yourself. And I think that's a huge blessing for churches. I know, again, many churches that have done delivering their own talks, or they've tried a few different things, but what that does is it takes away your time and attention as an Alpha team from hosting really well, because then you're having to think about doing the talks. And you can do that in settings where you have a much larger team and you're looking to do a little bit of leadership development with some people, and maybe you've got a lot of Alphas under your belt at that point, that you've got the experience to deliver live, but the talks are done brilliantly. They're done so quickly as well, like they just look beautiful. So use them, download them, they're free. And then the discussion, that's a huge key ingredient for Alpha, is the open discussion that guests get to have with one another. And I think this is something that I love to, when I'm training churches, they're like, yeah, but what if someone asks a really difficult question? And I went, that's such a good question. What do you think about that, Jason? And they get really annoyed at me, but what they don't realize is I'm trying to teach them, how do you like open up the conversation? So the idea is when you're sat in an Alpha group, you know, you're not, as the guest, as the host or the helper, meant to have all the answers. You're actually meant to open up the discussion for other people to bring their thoughts, for other people to bring, well, this is what I thought around that, this is what I've been brought up to believe, or it's to have an open dialogue with people. And there's not many settings that can take place. You know, so that's the key ingredient, is that it's open discussion.
That's great. So whatever you can do, just do it. Do it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I pick up from that. You know, whether it's donuts, whether it's popcorn, whether it's a 3-course meal. Do your talks well, and then open up that discussion.
Absolutely.
And don't have all the answers. I've heard that sometimes having all the answers can be more of a problem than not having the answers.
Absolutely. And who has all the answers? Well, God, you know, like, I've got a lot I've got to ask him one day. But you know, we don't have the answers, but we can provide spaces for conversations to take place, and that's the difference.
And it's through that people discover and learn and grow and realise what they believe for themselves.
Absolutely.
So that's brilliant. So have you got any kind of what does and doesn't works? Have you got some like, yes, do this, it works great, please don't do that, we know it doesn't work? Have you got some of those?
We try not to do the yes and the no's, but we talk about 7 best practices. So we kind of say, here, if you are doing these and doing these well, you can expect a great course. I've got them with me because I wanted to make sure that I didn't get them
7
wrong.
is a lot to remember.
7, like in a moment, I was like, right, bring the iPad for this one. So that we try not to use that language, purely because, you know, we understand that there's churches all across our nations that are doing their very best, you know, with all different sizes, with all different budgets, in all different contexts, that to kind of say don't do this actually wouldn't be helpful, or do this, and they literally cannot stretch to that place. But these practices are good practices. So the first one is prayer.
Great.
So the first one is prayer, and this is pre-Alpha. This is gather people, be expectant for God to move, ask people to really intercede for your town and your city, for hearts to be open to invitation. Really do everything from starting from a place of prayer is huge. The second is evangelistically positioned. I'm sure we've all been in an Alpha course where we've realised we're sat around a load of Christians and we're like, why are we here? Like we love Jesus, you know, like we don't need to be here. So the idea of an alpha is that it is for the curious, it's for the seeking, it's for the person who hasn't yet made a decision. I do know a lot of churches that use it for new believers, but I mean brand new believers.
Yeah.
This isn't for people that have been in the congregation for 10, 20, 30 years. It's great for them to come as a bringer.
Yeah.
It's great for them to come and be on team. It's great for them to come and to serve or to come and to pray, but they're not the primary audience.
Yeah.
The primary audience is being evangelistically positioned for the people in your town and your city to come with their questions.
That's great.
Your third is equipping the team. Now, this is so important. I think I heard it literally about an hour ago. I overheard a conversation and someone was like, oh, well, we run Alpha. We know what we're doing. And if everybody, if that was everybody's opinion, then nobody would ever train again because they would train once and they would then continually think that they know how it's ran. They wouldn't stay up to date with the materials or, hey, we've actually learned this as a best practice. We've put it into our training. You can do this. Like training your team every single Alpha, even if they're the same volunteers, you know, and you're running 3 courses a year, doing those 3 training nights is huge because a lot of life happens between courses. You know, a lot of life is in between running one Alpha to another. Just because your volunteers are the same doesn't mean they remember what they're doing. So equipping your team, especially around how to host, how to help, how to have open discussion, equipping them with the why are we doing this, you know, it's so important. Don't skip the training.
Which
It's
I guess
big.
really helps not fall into some of those bad
Yes,
habits
absolutely.
of having the answers for people or
Yes.
kind of, you know, trying to do those things.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, just bringing it back to basics every time and going, this is why we're here.
Yeah.
This is how we do it.
Absolutely.
It's so important.
So there are 3, the first 3 of 7. The next one is hospitality. I'll make this snappier, guys, I promise. The next one is hospitality. You know, one of the biggest principles for us at Alpha is that we welcome well and we welcome strong. Like people feel like they're welcome here. So how do we do hospitality really well? So it's like, who can you put on the door who is your friendliest face? Who is, you know, the biggest welcomer? Like really make people feel like they're welcome, they're wanted, they're loved right from the moment. People tend to drop out of Alpha. This is a little bit of stats for you guys. People tend to drop out by week 3. So if you have somebody at week 3, you've actually got them for the whole course.
Great.
So if people drop out, they're going to drop out after week 1 or after week 2. But at week 3, you've got them until the end. So those kind of first 2 weeks really should be a huge, strong welcome. Hopefully nothing that is different to a normal church welcome, because if they're to walk through the doors of your church on a Sunday and get a very different experience, then that's very inconsistent. So hospitality, Alpha Talks, we've already touched on it, so I won't say it again. They're there for you. Download them, use them. They're amazing. Open discussions, we've said it. It's a huge thing. It is that I actually don't know what I think. What do you think? Or great question. What do you think? Or I love that idea. What's your thoughts? Like really kind of learning how to host a table, how to host a conversation. That's a life skill. That isn't just an Alpha skill, that's a life skill. I feel like going into primary schools and teaching kids that, like it is a huge thing. And then the very last one is the Holy Spirit Day. It's one that I think everybody thinks you have to go away for a whole weekend, and we did used to call it the weekend away. But most churches, it's been a trend we're seeing, and I think it's brilliant, is that they do a day, they do a day away, don't skip it, don't skip the Holy Spirit. You know, make some space, do it on a different day, make some room for ministry to happen. And that, statistically, I know a lot of stats up my sleeve, that's when people make decisions. They're most likely to make a decision for Jesus at the Holy Spirit Day than they are most other sessions of Alpha. So if you're skipping it, you're missing it.
Great. Well, that's amazing, and some really, really helpful practices there that we can all bear in mind as we're planning our next Alphas. I guess the last thing on my list is what are your hints and tips, but I think we've kind of had a lot of hints and tips. But
We've had.
Maury, have you got one golden nugget for us to remember as the absolute key in all of this?
Consistency. is huge. And I've just had this conversation with another church, which is brilliant. If you can imagine, you've just run an Alpha course, and the people on your Alpha course have had the best time, and they say to you, I'd love to invite a friend to your next course. When is it? And you say it's in 12 months' time. They're not going to mark that date in their diary. So be consistent with running Alpha. Your best inviters actually are your guests. So they've just had a great experience. They now want to bring their friends. Fabulous. You join us this time, Jason. Bring your friend, and actually, why don't you help host the discussion this time? And it's, when is your next course running? In 4 weeks. Take a breather, take a month, but don't take a year. So I think consistency, if you're going to do it, do it. And I think having that kind of consistent thing that you can signpost people to is huge. So get the dates in your diary. And so we're going to run 3 a year, 1 a term. It's normal. Like most churches, again, fall into that pattern, and they're the ones that really see the growth because they're being consistent with how often.
Building the momentum.
And they're building the momentum, and they're helping people invite through the guests onto the next course. But could you imagine if you said to someone, invite somebody to something in 12 months' time? It's not going to happen. But invite someone to something in 4 weeks' time, it's going to happen, isn't it? So consistency. My last thing.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Mari. Thank you for your wisdom and your help. And we're really excited to be partnering with Alpha and to see some great fruit from hosting some courses across our network. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.